He thought she had moved on to bigger things, until he found her working long hospital shifts, exhausted and struggling. What he did next changed both of their lives forever. The bright lights of Westvale General Hospital buzzed overhead as Ryan Caldwell, billionaire CEO of Caldwell Tech, stepped through the sliding doors. He wasn't here for business. His mother had been admitted for observation, and he wanted to check in. Dressed in an expensive suit, he was used to people recognizing him, but today he was the one who froze. Because standing at the nurse's station, flipping through a patient's chart, was a face he hadn't seen in over a decade. Emily Carter, his childhood best friend, the girl who used to beat him at math competitions, who once dreamed of becoming a world-class doctor, the one who had disappeared from his life after high school. And now? She was here, a nurse. Ryan's brows furrowed. How had this happened? As if sensing his stare, Emily looked up, and her eyes widened in shock. "Ryan?" she whispered. A slow smile spread across his lips. "Emily Carter, I never thought I'd see you here." She laughed softly, still in disbelief. "Neither did I." But Ryan wasn't laughing, because as he looked closer, he noticed the exhaustion in her eyes, the way her shoulders sagged, the way she clutched her clipboard like it was the only thing holding her together. Something wasn't right, and as they started talking, he realized just how much she had been struggling. She had spent years trying to get into med school, balancing multiple jobs, drowning in student debt, until eventually she had to give up on her dream. Ryan's chest tightened. This wasn't the Emily he remembered. She had sacrificed everything for a career she was never supposed to settle for. And in that moment, he made a decision. He wasn't going to let her story end like this, because if the world wouldn't give Emily the future she deserved, then he would. The next day, Ryan couldn't stop thinking about Emily, the smartest person he had ever known, the girl who once had dreams bigger than life, reduced to working endless shifts, barely scraping by. And that didn't sit right with him. So he made a call to the board of directors at Caldwell Medical Foundation, one of the largest scholarship funds in the country. "Find Emily Carter's records. I want to know exactly how much debt she has, and then pay it off." The board hesitated. "Sir, are you sure?" Ryan's voice was firm. "Every last cent. And that's not all. I want her med school applications reopened. If she still wants to be a doctor, she'll have that chance. No more barriers. No more roadblocks." This time Emily wasn't going to be forced to give up. Later, that evening, Emily sat in the hospital break room, rubbing her temples after another long shift. Her phone buzzed. A new email. She almost ignored it, until she saw the subject line. "Student loan account, balance paid in full." Her heart stopped. Hands shaking, she clicked the message. It wasn't just a payment. It was everything. Every loan, every penny of debt, gone. Her breath caught. Who? How? Then another email popped up. Caldwell Medical Foundation, full scholarship approved. Her vision blurred as tears welled in her eyes. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. And then her phone buzzed again. Ryan Caldwell. "Dinner tomorrow?" "We need to talk." Emily covered her mouth, a sob escaping, because deep down she already knew. Ryan had done this. He had changed her life overnight. And tomorrow, she was going to find out why. The next night, Emily sat at a high-end rooftop restaurant, still trying to wrap her head around what had happened. Her student loans, gone. A full scholarship, granted. It was too much, too unreal. And across from her, sitting casually with a smirk, was Ryan Caldwell, the man responsible for all of it. She took a deep breath, gripping her water glass. "Ryan, tell me the truth. Was it you?" Ryan leaned back, his expression unreadable. "Was what me?" She exhaled sharply. "Don't play games. My loans, my med school application. You did this, didn't you?" Ryan's smirk softened into something more serious. "Yeah, I did." Emily's breath hitched. Hearing him say it out loud made it all feel real. Her emotions swirled, gratitude, disbelief, and something else she couldn't quite name. "Ryan, I can't accept this." His eyes narrowed. "Why not?" She let out a shaky laugh. "Because it's too much. Med school isn't cheap. Why would you do this for me?" Ryan leaned forward, resting his arms on the table. "Because you were never supposed to give up on your dream, Emily." Her throat tightened. "You were the smartest person I knew, the one who was supposed to change lives. And you got stuck because life threw obstacles in your way." He shook his head. "That's not fair. And if I have the power to remove those obstacles, I will." Emily blinked back tears. She wasn't used to people fighting for her. Ryan smirked. "Besides, I'm a billionaire. What's the point of all this money if I can't use it to help someone who actually deserves it?" She let out a choked laugh. "You always were dramatic." He grinned. "And you always were too stubborn." She looked down at her hands, emotions threatening to overwhelm her. "I don't know how to repay you for this, Ryan." His voice softened. "Just promise me one thing." She met his gaze. "Anything. Become the doctor you were always meant to be." A tear slipped down her cheek, because in that moment she realized she really could. Her dream wasn't lost. It had just been waiting for her, and thanks to Ryan, she finally had a second chance. 5 years later, the grand opening of Westvale Memorial Hospital's new pediatric wing was a massive event. Cameras flashed, reporters gathered, and dozens of medical professionals stood proudly in their white coats. At the center of it all, standing before a massive ribbon, was Dr. Emily Carter. Her journey had been long, late-night studying, grueling shifts, sleepless weeks. But she had done it. And now, she wasn't just a doctor. She was the head of pediatric surgery. The announcer spoke into the microphone. "And now, a few words from the woman who made this vision a reality. Dr. Emily Carter." The crowd erupted in applause as Emily stepped forward, adjusting her coat. She took a deep breath, her eyes scanning the audience. And there, in the front row, was Ryan. He sat casually in a designer suit, watching with that familiar smirk. The same one he had given her the night he changed her life forever. She smiled, clearing her throat. 5 years ago, I thought my dream was over. I thought I had to settle. That life had closed a door I would never get through. Emily took a deep breath, her voice steady but filled with emotion. But someone believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. She glanced toward Ryan, their eyes locking for a brief moment. He knew exactly what she meant. Because of that faith, because of that chance, I stand before you today, not just as a doctor, but as someone who gets to change lives, just like mine was changed. The crowd burst into applause. Emily smiled, gripping the oversized scissors in her hands. She had spent years fighting for this moment, and now it was here. With one swift motion, she cut the ribbon. The Westvale Pediatric Wing was officially open. As doctors and families flooded inside, Ryan made his way over to her. She crossed her arms, grinning. "So, still think I was the smartest person you knew?" Ryan chuckled. "I never doubted it for a second." She shook her head. "I still don't know how to thank you for all of this." His expression softened. "You just did." Emily blinked. "What do you mean?" Ryan gestured to the bustling hospital behind them. "You took an opportunity and turned it into something bigger than yourself. You're saving lives now. That's more than enough of a thank you." Her throat tightened. He had changed her life, but in the end, she had been the one to make it all worth it. She exhaled, nudging him lightly. "You know, I probably owe you dinner or something." Ryan smirked. "I was just about to say the same thing." She laughed. "Fine, but I'm picking the place this time." As they walked away from the crowd, She looked back at the hospital, her hospital. Her dream wasn't just alive, it was thriving. And it had all started with one person who refused to let her give up. This wasn't just her success story. It was proof that sometimes second chances weren't just given. They were earned.